And with that, obviously, it has been a great season in the OUA. Lots of parity, lots of really competitive games, lots of great blowouts, lots of great individual performances. Matt, obviously, why don't we run through some of our award predictions, some of the Always OUA awards we've gained some notoriety for over the years. First off, Offensive Player of the Year. Who do you think really stole the show there?
I like Austin Kennedy, the quarterback from Windsor. He came in there for the injured Stan Malian, and I believe it was week 2 against Laurier. Pretty much with the same team around him as previous Lancers team in 2010, and he just put up just phenomenal numbers and led that team to some great wins in the season. Let me run through here: 20 touchdowns to 5 interceptions. That's a phenomenal ratio. And 65% of complete pass. So he's hitting his targets, and he's making great decisions with the football. I don't think the Windsor Lancers would be where they are without the quarterback in Austin Kennedy. I really think he really shines as the premier offensive player this year in the OUA.
It's interesting you say that because I'm actually going to go with a different route here. I'm going to go with Ryan Granberg from the Queens Golden Gales. I was really, really impressed with Ryan Granberg this season. You could kind of see that he had some potential in him. Last year he averaged 9 yards a carry in 2010. Year before that, he really kind of broke into the scene. He had a great game against York. Granted, it was York, but I believe he had 9 carries for something around the mark of 67 yards, something like that. Like a great debut. He actually had a couple key carries in that Metro Bowl against Laval and really seemed to be turning into quite a back. Last year, splitting carries with Jimmy Tarian. And this year, really, really burst on the scene. The only OUA running back to get over 1,000 yards this season. Obviously, he kind of got overshadowed a little bit with Tyler Varga at Western, who had 15 touchdowns. But, Ryan Granberg, this is a guy who had 1,068 yards, the second highest mark behind Mike Giffen at Queen's 2007 season, and really, really stood out as a phenomenal running back this season. And when you consider he played week 1 and 2 against McMaster in Ottawa, pretty dinged up from training camp, and then sat out week 5 against Toronto, a game we called for Kingston Radio CFRC. That's an impressive line. This is a guy who averaged roughly 150 yards a game, and especially with the health becoming a question after he took a bit of a shot in week 4 against York, bit of an awkward landing on his I think it was his left knee. This is a guy who fought really hard for those yards, put up a phenomenal 260-yard performance against the Windsor Lancers and on Thanksgiving weekend, and really I think has finally cemented his place as one of the premier running backs in the CIS, really. And he's got 1 more year of eligibility left, and I would be shocked if he didn't build on those numbers going forward.
Yeah, it's a shame he got injured there against York and missed some snaps, because he definitely could have added to those already great numbers that he's put up this year that you mentioned.
And with that, obviously, there is the defensive side of the ball as well. Who do you like on defense? Who do you like to stop that offense for you this year?
I'm going to go a little off the board here. I'm going to go with Sammy Sabrin, a Queens linebacker. I saw him twice. I had the pleasure of calling the radio games with you. It was against lesser opponents in Toronto and York, but I just... he had great instinct, great awareness of where the ball was going to go, and seemed to read the plays very well, and made some key stops for Queens. Didn't shine too much on the stat sheet, but I just think I saw a lot of them this year. I really liked what I saw from Sandy Sabrin.
Definitely a hard choice to argue. 2010 Rookie of the Year in the OUA, and really kind of took a statistical hit this year. A lot of teams were running away from him. He plays a lot of strong side linebacker. And, Queen's defense in general has been very well balanced this year. Obviously, not too many leading tacklers in the UA coming from Queens, in part because they've got such depth through that defensive core. I'm going to go with a bit more of a statistical selection here, in part because, I think he's one of the more talented defensive players in the league, but also because he's got the numbers to back it up. I'm going to go with Wilkerson D'Souza of the Toronto Varsity Blues. Those of you who had the chance to watch Toronto this year really saw a guy and a defense at large that's coming into its own. D'Souza is a great playmaker for the Varsity Blues. Few forced fumbles, few sacks. This is a guy who's equally adept in pass coverage, run stopping, pass rushing. He does it all for them. He's really kind of he's their motor on defense. He's bolstered a lot by Dorian Monroe, the safety out of Florida, who came and suited up in the strong safety position behind him, and I think that really gave Wilkerson D'Souza a lot more opportunity to kind of roam around and make bigger plays. As it's always nice to know you have a very talented player behind you. And I was really impressed with him. I saw the Toronto Varsity Blues a couple times in person and on television, and I really like what this guy brings to the table. And for me, he's a top defensive player in the OUA this year. And I'd like to give an honorable mention, though. It's a pretty Queens flavored podcast thus far, to Osi Aguoma, who I think is far and away the lineman of the year this year. This is a guy, took a year away from the game for his first year of law school, came back now, second year of law school. Did a bit of work in the Calgary Stampeders training camp during this off season, and he really lit it up this year. Led the OUA in sacks with 6, had a team high and OUA high tackles for loss with 12. He became Queen's number 2 all-time sack leader. Chasing Jim Aru, who had some phenomenal years with the Gales in the late 90s. And also, became their all-time leader in tackles for loss. This is a guy who's facing double teams, triple teams all game. He'd get a guard and a center matched up against him, and then have a fullback come try and take his legs out. He can do it all. He drops back as a linebacker into a 3-4, lines up at the end, lines up at the nose, lines up at the tackle, and I think he's had a phenomenal year. And I think we're about to add another name to the very exclusive list of 4-time All-Canadians with Osi Aguoma, and he's done it 3 times, 2008's Metris winner. Don't be shocked if he brings it home again, because he had a phenomenal year and really one of the most dominant performances I've ever seen from a player on the defensive side of the ball this year.
So, you know his status for next year? Is this is last year's eligibility?
Yeah, this is last year. This was his 5th year. So with that, one of the great kind of Queens Gales of the 2000s, when they really started to turn the program around after some lesser light days in the late 90s. Osi Aguoma is going to be hanging him up for good, but who knows? We might see him in the CFL one day, although second year of law school, you might see him in a court near you. Hopefully he's not representing you. But with that, obviously we've had some great performances from freshmen this year. Matt, rookie of the year, there's a lot of names out there. Who do you like?
I like Marcus Granison, a safety at York University. I saw him play twice this year. Just impressed me all around. He's built like a pro safety. He came ready to play in the OUA, making some great open field tackles. A few interceptions, a 4 if I'm not mistaken. Just hit the ground running, and really was an anchor. I mean, York defense didn't do well, but if there ever was an anchor, it'd definitely be him for the Lions back there. Just a great season. I know he'll be a great OUA player. I'm sure he'll be on a few all-star teams. If you're a student at York or an alumni of York, go out and watch this guy, and lucky that he chose your program.
I actually couldn't agree more there. I really like Marcus Granison as a player. I think he's going to be a phenomenal safety. I wouldn't be actually shocked to see him on a first-team or second-team OUA all-star team this year. Definitely in the conversation for Rookie of the Year. That being said, however, I think the winner is wearing purple in London, Ontario. Tyler Varga put together a phenomenal year for a freshman running back. I mean, this is a position where not everybody's prepared physically to take the pounding that comes with playing against a lot of men. Really, I mean, you're facing 20-year-old linemen on both sides of the ball. So, I really like the job Varga did this year. Obviously, coming to a run-heavy offense against with the Western Mustangs this year. Scored 15 touchdowns in the regular season. Just came off a huge performance in the OUA semifinals. This kid looks like he's going to be a special one. Turned out a few D1 scholarships to come play for Greg Marshall in the Western Mustangs. So I really like this kid going forward. And, he's one of those guys who, anytime he's on TV, you really have to tune in and watch because he can do some special things. That being said, I'm almost inclined to say that Grandison might be a better safety one day than Varga is at running back. But, it's hard to argue with the stats Vargas put up this year. He's been a phenomenal addition to that Western program. And, what can you say about them reloading running back talent? I mean, you had Nathan Riva, who was a star in the 2019, beating out Deshaun Thomas, who had some CFL experience. You had Jeremy Hipperson last year come in and replace Riva for the brunt of the season, lead the OUA in rushing, doesn't even take a handoff this season. And Nathan Riva is playing second fiddle now to a freshman as well. So even despite some great performances of his own, that Western Mustangs rushing attack is really something to watch. And I think Tyler Varga is going to take home some hardware this year because of it. but it really doesn't matter what we say, because obviously we don't have a vote here at Always OUA. We don't get to handpick our favorites. If we did, you'd be hearing them right now. There is one award though that stands out far and above the rest: the Heck Crichton Award. We can't really speculate on who's going to be the ultimate winner, since we're the OUA, not the CW, the QUFL, or the AUS. That being said, Matt, the OUA does get a nominee. Who do you like to come out of the OUA and possibly bring home the Heck this year?
I gotta go back to Austin Kennedy of the Windsor there. I didn't mean to sound like a broken record, but take that team to five wins, virtually an unchanged team from last year. Is obviously something special. A lot of people like Kyle Quinlan. He missed a few games. He had a great season in his own right. People could argue he's a better quarterback than Kennedy. But Kennedy was in there for the long haul and just led that Lancer team to one of their better seasons in recent memory. Quick point of interest here, Chris, for our listeners. Marcus Granderson only had 1 interception. I said 4 mistakenly, and I apologize for that. I've gotten some heck in the past for some slightly inaccurate information, so I just want to clarify that Marcus Granderson had 1 interception.
Well, we always appreciate you keeping yourself honest there, Matt, as I'm sure our commenters would have been quick to jump on you there. That being said, I'm going to go a bit off the board here with my Heck pick. You mentioned Kyle Quinlan. I think, and I kind of intimated this on the University of Rush blog, for those of you who follow my work there, I think Michael DeCroce could be a surprise nominee from the OUA. I really like what this guy did. He's the top receiver in the OUA this year, top receiver in the CIS in both yards and yards per game. Very explosive player in the return game. They'll send him back there to return punts when they really need it. And I think you can really point to Michael DeCroce as a guy who saved this team's season. You look at what Marshall Ferguson did in the absence of Kyle Quinlan, who served a 3-game suspension. Marshall Ferguson really relied on Michael DeCroce during that time period, and I really think that Michael DeCroce had a huge thing to do with this team. I really think that he's going to play a big role if McMaster brings home the Yates Cup next weekend. But that being said, I really think Michael DeCroce, could surprise a lot of people as this year's OUA nominee for the Heck Crichton.